I'm making this video to teach you how to build a Unity project fast. So the first thing you want to do in Unity is have it open. Make sure you got Visual Studio open as well. I'm going to teach you everything you need to know, the very basics of using Unity. So first, we're going to use Unity 2D because it's simpler to start with. I probably won't make more than one of these because this is kind of an experimental tutorial thing. We'll just call this project tutorial. Tutorial add 00. We might do more. Okay, and we will click just create project. Bam. Okay, so that part's done. Yeah. We have to just wait for it now. This will take no time at all. I'm joking, it'll take forever. So we'll just start view, hide desktop icons. Just stare at the cute picture while we wait for Unity to do its thing. I've got 4 cores on an Intel i5, and it's eating up quite a lot of CPU recording this video. There it goes. So we'll just wait for that really fast. Oh my god, Unity, hurry up, what the fuck? With music, I will quit Discord on my computer. I should have done that. You just go away. There we go. Alright, so you'll notice here the first thing, it's your Unity version in the title bar. That's important. I'm running 64-bit. Tutorial 00, that's the name of your project and the name of your scene, I think. And the video renderer. I'm not going to get too into how to change your video renderer because okay, so your video renderer, I'm going to make a new folder in my documents folder called tutorials, and in this I'm going to create a new folder called tutorial 00, and in that folder I'm going to make a new folder called assets to import. This is important because you never want to import the asset directly into Unity. You want to build your assets outside Unity, then drag them in. It's just a lot better. I'm going to use good old-fashioned paint. You may notice we basically have nothing. There's your camera and that's it. You can get your camera preview. If we run this, nothing happens. Okay, you can pause it by clicking pause and unpause it and press the play button to stop running it. So you have these windows here. You've got game and you've got scene. The scene lets you see what's going on behind the scenes, obviously, and game is actually what you would see if you were running it. You can drag all these windows using toolbars here. You can disable or enable the audio listener in your scene. You want to keep it on, I guess. I don't know why there's an audio listener by default in the scene. Anyways, you can change the, if you have multiple monitors, you can change which display to render on. I don't know what that was. Target texture, blah, blah, blah. So the camera can actually render a target texture. I didn't realize this before. But anyways, you got your main camera. So this is the object inspector. It's really important because you've got a few different parameters here. The transform is a global property of most objects in Unity, and what it does is it lets you actually move things around. You can't see that here, so we'll go into Paint really quick, and I'll give you a quick example of how to do that. We're going to make a new image properties. We'll make it a nice 64 by 64, really, really fast. Zoom all the way in with Control scroll wheel up. I'm just going to paint this green. I'm going to make a blue circle inside it because it's super simple and easy. Okay, and this will probably drive people nuts, but I'm going to put a square inside of that and make it yellow. Just cause. I don't know why. Don't ask. I'll make this red, I guess. It's horrible. Okay, we're going to save this as example asset, or example sprite. Documents, tutorials, tutorial 00, assets to import, and we'll just save this as example sprite. PNG is fine. Great. Now, really important, really quick, I'm going to make these white. If you want a version of this inside. Basically, if you want this to be transparent in Unity, you need to Control C this out of Paint or open it. And I highly recommend getting used to browsing through folders. You're going to do it a lot, unless you want a mess and you want to just import everything at the root of your project. I don't recommend that. You'll get lost fast. Assets to import. We don't actually have to copy it if we open with GIMP. I've got GIMP installed on this. So we'll open GIMP, and I'll show you a trick which is hard to find on Google. It's really annoying to sit there and Google this for hours. This is the crash course, basically everything you want to know about dealing with Unity. So you've got this texture here, and that's fine. Oh, I didn't save it in Paint. Okay, hang on. So we'll go to Paint, File, Save. Okay, we'll sorry about that. And like I said, you want to edit with GIMP. Just reopen it with GIMP. It's okay because we already have an instance of GIMP opened. So there you go. There's that white. Really important. If you want that white to be transparent on a sprite, you click in GIMP. You click this little magic wand here, and you just I believe it's this magic wand. And you just select, hold Shift, and then you'll see the outline has actually gone. If we zoom in, you'll see the outlines have gone around the outside, and you just delete. That doesn't work. So what you do is you Control C, File New, and let's make it 64 by 64. Advanced Options, change it to Transparency in Fill With. Click OK, and yeah, if you run into that, just do that. Control V, click the Magic Wand tool again. You might need to select this anchor tool first. We'll close the other two. And we'll click the anchor tool. And then we'll click this, zoom in again, select the outside corners, and now that it has a transparent background, we'll delete. And that's transparent now. Now GIMP has its own save format. Well, about that, you can save that, and it'll save it as a GIMP file, XCF. Well, I think that's a Photoshop format. I'm not sure, but you can just export as, and inside our folder, tutorials, tutorial 0, assets to import, save it as example sprite transparent. You don't need to put transparent there. If you have sprites that you want transparent, you can just make them transparent. Export. Okay, .png because we're renaming by file type, and export. These settings can let you change the quality. This isn't a GIMP tutorial, so I'm going to skip that and just click export. Minimize this, minimize this, minimize this, minimize this, minimize this, and back into Unity. Or actually, we want this folder open. Make it smaller. And then you go into Unity. Whoop. And we can actually drag from the corner. Now, inside Unity, there's an assets folder. You'll want to create a new folder in your new project and name it resources. There's a big reason for this. If you have a resources folder and you try to use the tagline, if you have a resources folder and you try to use the tagline resources.load type file path as type, you'll run into an issue with the resources folder not actually existing. I learned this the hard way. All assets that you want to use resources.load to import in Unity using code, and this is only for code scripts, must have a resources folder linked to your Unity project somewhere. You can have multiple resources folders throughout your hierarchy as well. It doesn't matter as long as it's in a folder called resources at the root, just after assets, then it'll be fine. So we'll import both of these. So there's a thing with editing sprites that's very important. Also, this is the console. We'll get to that later. In order to edit a sprite, you can actually left click on it and you'll see all these properties come up. So we've got two. Input texture alpha. Use alpha from the input texture if one is provided is an option in your advanced settings. So if this is like this, you'll click this arrow and you'll see all these settings pop up on your sprite and texture. There's an important difference between a sprite and a texture though. We'll get to that later. But if you set this to none, then our lovely new transparent sprite will not be transparent. So let's import both of them and see the difference. So you'll notice we've created sprites now. There is a difference between the texture and the sprite. So this is our scene. This is important. So there's your game preview. There's your scene. If we run this, you get your game preview. Now, a little something for you programmers out there. You can move things around in the scene using the mouse and all that, but if you click the transform, you can also change these values. Like, you'll see it's moving quite a bit. If we change this to a 0.5 or 0.6 or 0.7 or 0.8 or 0.9, blah blah blah, if we change this from a 1 to a 2, you'll see it doesn't move a single pixel. It moves quite a significant amount. I believe that's because a single unit is the total size of your sprite. So a whole number is a unit, and that unit is divided by the amount of pixels in your sprite to create subpixels on screen so that Unity can scale. This means that if you have a 32 by 32 sprite and you want to move it, say, 2 pixels right, you need to multiply it by 0.32. I'll get into that later. But basically you have these zones, which I believe make up whole units. Let's confirm that. If this one is here and that one is there, and we change this from 0.327 to a 1.327, yes. So each of these zones is a whole unit of movement from the left edge of this zone to the left edge of that zone. And these are subzones. These are 16, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No, they're 10. Anyhow, what matters about that is that for your, you'll notice the transform here is changing as I drag this. By the way, I'm using the drag tool. If you have any of these other tools selected, you'll get some janky effects. You might want to use those in your game creation, but you don't necessarily need them. And then there's this. This is to change scaling of the sprite. Scale and resize are not the same thing. Anyhow, that's that. That's how you import sprites into your game. And that's the basics, the bare bone basics. Next, if you stay with me, I will get into. This is more for programmers. So we're going to create a sprite that can shoot a fireball. That's what we're going to do. So we're going to go into Paint, and this is probably going to be the full length of this tutorial. But actually, we'll do that, but we'll also make it move. So first let's create the fireball asset. Properties, let's make this 16 by 16. Oops, that's a Q. We'll make this 16 by 16. And we'll just draw like a red circle. It doesn't have to be super perfect. You can make your own. It doesn't matter. It's just going to be what it is, and it's going to work. Now let me honestly tell you, Unity's like magic, okay? Like, we're not going to worry about transparency with this one. Fireball.png, because I just want to move on to actually getting into the meat of this. If you want to pause this video, if you're following along, and go into GIMP and make it transparent yourself, you can go ahead. Real quick side note, how to install GIMP. You can literally Google it, and you can click on this here, gimp.org/downloads. That's how you download the GNU. And to install Unity, you go to unity3d.com/getunitydownload. Okay, it's pretty simple. It's not that hard. I recommend the 2017 version. I have some bugs on Windows 10 with the 2018 version, which I don't know if you noticed, but I am using the 2017 version. So anyways, that aside, we will now import our fireball asset. Bam. That's done. Now, you'll notice there's an input texture alpha here too. One other thing on your sprites. If you're trying to make a game with pixel art, and you want your pixels to show up pixel perfect, there's this filter mode setting here. The filter mode under advanced on any 2D asset that's an image, you can change it to point, no filter, and what that will do is it will clear it up. Let me show you what I mean. So right now it's not set to point, no filter. If we click on the asset and we change it to point, you'll notice the smoothing has gone away. So you won't be able to see the pixels normally with that bilinear filter, and trilinear makes it even more blurry. So if you're wanting to actually show the pixels that on your sprites in your scene, that is how you do it. And then of course, if you want to build your levels scene by scene, then you can move all your asset elements around in the editor, but I'm going to show you something even more powerful than that very soon. So, for now we'll remove the fireball from the scene because that is not how we add fireballs to the game. This is going to get a little weird, but if we click on the main camera, we zoom out, there's a layout option. You can do 2x3. 2x3 lets you do this, and this is your game view down on the bottom. You can zoom in and out with the slider. Maximize on play is a checkbox you might want to uncheck, and unless you don't care about seeing the scene while your game runs. It's very good for debugging though, I use it a lot. So, here you have these two different versions. We will delete the one without transparency so that we have one main focus, this one here. This is just, and you'll notice that you can almost barely see the blue, but I'll show you what happens when we run it in this mode. When you click the play button in this mode on Unity, once it loads, you end up with something really cool. Okay, so it's already running. If I move this in there, you can see it in the game. Right, I'm used to Unity taking much longer to load. My projects are pretty big. So we'll center this in here. Now back to the camera. If we move this main camera around in the scene, then you end up with this effect. So you can actually attach scripts to your camera, like this script. So let's say you wanted to make scrolling level, new script. We'll just call this move right, create an add. So what I did was I clicked on the camera component in the object browser, I clicked add component, and I clicked new script. Now you'll see there's this drop down arrow under script. That's important because when you create a script in Unity and you create public modifiers on game objects that you've defined in the script, you can actually drag a game object in to the script as a reference, so you don't have to code the reference in. So if you're hard coding certain things, like say the camera needs to know where the player sprite is at all times in your screen, and you've only got like a one screen game or something, it's a very easy fix to just drag a reference to the player right into that box. And I'll show you how to do that in a minute, but first I'll show you how to edit scripts next. Editing scripts is pretty simple. You need Visual Studio installed. Unity will install Visual Studio for you. Click this little settings button here on the move right script we've created, and click edit script from the drop down. Visual Studio will start up. Hopefully you don't get a unrecognized GUID error. If you get that unrecognized GUID error when it starts up, then something is wrong with your setup, and you either need to uninstall Unity and update to the latest, or you need to uninstall Unity and downgrade a version or two. That's what happened to me trying to use the newest version of Unity 2018 on my laptop, actually. I still to this day have not fixed that error. And You can get around it by opening the Visual Studio Solution project manually as well. But if you try to launch Visual Studio from within Unity, it is a known bug that sometimes happens to some people. It's very rare though. It likely won't happen to you. The system I'm running this tutorial on is Windows 7. You're likely running Windows 8 or Windows 10, but I don't know for sure. So anyways, Unity scripts, specifically game object Unity scripts. By the way, the camera is a game object. Unity game object scripts are made up of multiple components. The object itself is made up of multiple components, and the entire system is basically component based. We've got two fancy functions that are automatically created for you, but let's just do a code breakdown first. This is very important for actually getting anywhere with Unity if you want to be a coder. There's not really much you can do within Unity without learning a little bit of C#. Alternatively, I think you can use Java, but I am a C# user primarily, so this tutorial will focus specifically on C#. There's these using statements here on the first 3 lines. System.collections is for lists. Systems.collections.generic is for generic lists. And using Unity Engine is a using modifier, which is important because it basically references everything Unity Engine provides. So those are the 3 using statements that will always be in a new script. Then you've got the class. The class is basically the collection of code for this object. There is nothing else on this object right now but this, what I've selected here. So there's this use this for initialization comment right there for you. And in case you're not familiar with C#, the / means comment. These opening and closing brackets here, squiggly brackets, they denote the start and end of the class. This colon here, it separates the name of your class, which is just the name of the collection of code you're building, from the inheritance, which is mono behavior. So we're specifying that this is in fact a child of the type mono behavior. It is derived from the base class mono behavior, as it says right here in the pop-up. So with that said, you have 2 functions. Functions in C# are basically, they can have parameters. These 2 are parameterless functions. You've got void start and void update. Update is called once per frame, as it says here. And start only happens once when your object is first initialized. You can make multiple copies of your object in Unity. So let's say that you defined a fireball that you wanted to shoot, and you had behaviors attached to that fireball in your code like this. If you clone that fireball sprite multiple times and attach this script to it manually using code or by hand in your designer scene view, you would effectively be able to then have multiple fireballs that all share the same code, but they're independent. Basically, they are their own version of that fireball. This is important because when we get into talking about program state, you'll start to understand a little bit more about how it relates to game design and, well, generally computer programming. So moving on, we want to move this object, which is the camera right now, right. The question is, how often do we want to move it? Let's say 1 pixel a second. So this is called once per frame. There's a thing called time.delta time. And what we do is we can actually do this. There is a transform you can access programmatically. So first we need to more or less take the transform of this object, which is going to be an XYZ value like this. They're all floats. Floats are decimal point integers with a lot of decimals. Doubles only have 2 decimals. Double 9 equals 10.20. Doubles are usually used for things like money or in lower accuracy calculations. Floats are very, very, very accurate decimal point values. Give me an error there because it doesn't like that. But anyhow, the way this works is you do let's just call this pose. So transform, actually let's just do var pose equals this dot transform dot position. There. And then we'll do pose.x plus equals 2 times time dot delta time. And then we will move this up to be more concise. And then this will not work. So the thing to understand is that we've taken a reference from the transform position of the object. This keyword refers to the current object in scope. In some languages, that can actually be the function you're dealing with, which would be this. In other languages, it's usually generically the object. In this case, it's the object that the script is attached to. So this simply refers to the exact class instance we're dealing with. I'll get into talking about class instances a little later. This is just a simple tutorial to get you started and to get things moving, quite literally moving, in your Unity project. These mechanics of how Unity works, I have to say, are very important. These fundamentals are very important. If you cannot grasp these fundamentals, then you'll have a very hard time moving forward in any Unity development. So you're going to want to maybe, if you have trouble grasping this, you're going to want to read the Unity documentation, read tutorials, watch other video tutorials, and maybe even try hands-on. Try following along with this tutorial. Don't just watch it and go, yeah, I get it, and move on. Actually try to follow along, because I'm telling you all the steps that you're going to need in order to move forward. And if you don't understand why something works, you can always post in the comments. You can ask questions. I'll post an email for you to email me with in the comments as well, in the video description, so that you can email me and ask questions that way. I will be very active and hopefully get back to you. If this kicks off, I will probably open a Discord for this series and begin helping people that way as well. So, back to this. You will take the position. So the post is actually a copy, but it is not actually a direct reference. The position of an object's transform is not easily modifiable. This is just simpler. I'll get into why later, but you take this dot transform dot position equals post, and this is called reassignment. So what you're doing is you're actually reassigning the object a new instance of the other object, because post is actually an object. The transform is an object. There's a whole tree of objects underneath this object. It's not super important to know about, but it's kind of important to understand that there is a whole hierarchy, a whole system to this. And we are starting with the basics. So the next step is, well, that's it really. You save it. I usually use save all. And you can see your assets folders even here. And we've got the scripts. You can see all the other scripts in your project from this view as well, so you don't always have to open them directly from Unity. If we go back to Unity now, and we hit that run button, we might get to see some magic happen. And voila! That's it. So you can see, if I double click here, this is actually the camera that's moving. It's kind of hard to see the effect. So why don't we go find a background image. Let's find something fun. Mario background image. This looks like a Mario level. You'll start to understand why being able to move the camera is so nice. I want this one. Come on, load, open image in new format, download. Can I download this? Please? Click here. No, I don't want to download similar images. Oh, it's part of their premium. No thank you. This is a viral site. Let's get off this. Okay, this one should work. Open image, new tab. Ugh, that's not very good. Tokoro. PV4 only. This one looks like it might work. I just want one to work. There it is. Save image as. So remember, we need to save everything in that assets folder first. Tutorials, tutorial 0, assets to import, Mario 1 wallpaper. So now we can actually open that assets folder, minimize the browser, and we can see here our assets folder is right there, so we'll just drag this to that. Huh? Oh, it didn't like it. Oh, that's fine. Let's try again. There. So this is the tedious part. But once we get this, it'll look really cool. There we go. And then you can just drag this into our scene. Voila. Presto. Now if we move this object here, you can see how it's starting to look more like a game. Now this is just an example. I don't want you guys to go and just copy Mario, even though Mario is very popular. I will show you what happens now when you press the play button. Ta-da! So as you can see, it's stuttering a little bit, but if we change the layout back to default and click run, we will get a nice sort of more zoomed in version of that. There it is. And that is how you move objects. So, with that said, let's say that you wanted a... Where is our sprite now? I don't think it's in the scene anymore. There it is. Example sprite transparent. So this one is not visible, and there's a reason. If we edit this, order and layer, and change that to say 5, and then run it, you can preview this this order and layer. If I change this to a -1, it will actually appear behind the background. If I change it to a 5, it appears in front. If I change it to a 1, it appears in the front. If I change it to a 0, it gets overwritten by the background. So that's because the background is bigger than it and they're on the same layer. Now let's say that I want this sprite now to shoot a fireball. The first thing I'm going to do is attach a new script. So we're going to actually create a new sprite first. So we're going to go to resources, fireball. Now in order to do this, we need to actually drag this into our scene temporarily. Now we can also change the sorting layer here to 2. It doesn't matter, anything between 1 and 5 will work. So now you see the fireball. Now what we're going to do is we will add a script to this. New script. We'll just call this move. Let's just make the fireball move right for now. Actually, that's very easy. In fact, all we have to do, since we're only going to make it move right, is add component, move right. We'll just attach the move right script to it. Now, actually, we need to make a clone of it, so let's remove the component. The component will say move fast. Move right fast. Okay. Create an add. Now we can edit this one. Edit component. Now in this script's update, we'll do the same thing we did last time. We'll do var pose equals this.transform.position, and then we'll do pose.x. We'll just move the x right now. The x is across the horizontal plane. Post.x plus equals, and then we'll do time dot delta time times, let's do 3.2f, and then we'll do this dot transform dot pose equals pose, and that's all we need for that fireball. Now there's one other thing we need to do. We need to save this, and then we'll go to the example sprite transparent. We'll add a script to this one. We'll call this one spawn fireball. Okay, so spawn fireball. Create and add. Edit component. Now we'll attach a public member to this. Public fireball to spawn. Public fireball. Fireball to spawn. So what this does is this actually assigns a field in the object. We'll let it refresh. We need to save it first. Oops. Now it'll refresh. There it is. So we can take this spawn fireball. We need to make this fireball here. We need to actually make it a preset. So we just drag it. Now that it's a prefab, we can drag this prefab into the so it's a little tricky. You have to click the sprite again first, and then drag from assets, and we can add this prefab to it. Fireball to spawn. Oh, I thought you could. That's fine. So we'll have this fireball not as a prefab. This is not very efficient, but we will keep this right here. And on this one, we'll just add this fireball here. Fireball. Huh? Oh, I know what I did wrong. We'll change this from spawn fireball to game object. There. And now we can do it. So we'll drag this fireball from the prefabs to that. No, it doesn't let us still. I thought it would. Well, we'll just use this fireball. Okay, so that's that. And now that's set up. Now every single, let's say, we need to do a not null check first. If not fireball to spawn equals null, make sure it's not null. So we'll do a random range. Int do spawn equals random dot range 0, 400. If do spawn is greater than, let's say, 60. No, let's say 300. Then game object dot instantiate fireball to spawn, and we'll just do that, and then we'll save this. And now if we take this object here, which we want to make a child of the camera, like that, by dragging it, we can run this, and it should basically start spawning fireballs on the scene now. Ho! There it goes, it spawned one. Actually, that was the one that already existed. We need to increase the persistency greater than 5. Let's try that. Huh. Okay. This is very strange. This usually works. One moment. I will just check that. Clones the object original and returns the clone. Huh. That's weird. Okay, well then, it must be because it's not using this. Weird. Assets. None. Huh. Oh, that's why. Okay, let's try this. Fireball. There we go. That should work. Let's try that. Maybe it's because it needs to be assigned an instance. There we are. So now it's spawning fireballs, but it's spawning them too fast and all over the place. Wow. We can do this. Obj.transform.position equals this.transform.position. There. And we'll just assign it the parent's transform temporarily so that it appears that it will appear that it's actually shooting the fireballs. There we go. And now that object is shooting fireballs, we'll reduce the amount of fireballs that it spawns by changing this back to, say, 400 and saying if it's greater than 319. Let's see how much less often it spawns fireballs now. There's a better way to do this frequency thing, but that's a little less bad. This will create a lot of lag, mind you, but we basically have the start of a game. A very silly game. Now, what if we wanted to be able to move our object? Well, we can do this. We can add another script, and we'll call this movement. Create and add. Oops. Script. Movement. That looks funny. Movement. Create and add. And we will edit this one. Edit script. Now, if input dot key code dot get key code dot up arrow dot transform dot position dot y minus equals plus equals 2, and it's gonna say that it can't. So basically what we'll do is repose equals this.transform.position, and then we'll do post.y plus equals 0.05, and then if input.get key code dot down arrow post.y minus equals 0.05, and it doesn't like this for some reason. Oh, F. And then lastly, this.transform.position equals post. And now you not only have something that shoots fireballs and a background that scrolls, but you also have the ability to move your game object that you can now shoot fireballs with, both up and down. And them's the basics. That's it. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, comments, anything like that, leave them in the comments section below. You know what to do. Please like and subscribe, and if you want more videos like this, hit that bell button and actually say something in the comments so I know people want this, because I will stop making this if people don't want more. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. As always, there is always the Unity documentation pages. There are forums as well, but I will be willing to give real-time advice, comments, answers in the comments section. Thanks again for watching. Have a great day. In the next tutorial, I'll probably be covering more advanced topics like better movement and how to start setting up raycasting and collision in your game engine in Unity. Thanks very much. I will see you in the next video.